Okay, I'm going to go over the basics about rationalizing a denominator. And when they say rationalize the denominator, it simply means getting rid of the radical in the denominator. And so since this example has just a square root of 2 in the denominator, I will simply multiply it times a square root of 2. Because when you take the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, that is the square root of 2 times 2 is 4, but the square root of 4 is just 2. And basically what you're doing here is when you take the square root of 2 times another square root of 2, you're taking a square root of 2 and squaring it. Because you got two of them, right? Like a times a would be an a squared. And what happens is your square root sign here and this 2 there basically just cancel each other out. And so all you're left with is the 2. But you can look at it also as the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4, but the square root of 4 is 2. That rationalizes the denominator, okay? However, we are in fraction land, and when you are in fraction land, you must abide by fraction laws. And one of the laws is if you multiply the denominator by something, you must multiply the numerator by the same thing. And since the 3 is actually, it's not under a square root sign and the 2 is, you can't multiply them together. And I always tell people, you can't take 3 times 2 because there's a roof here. There's a roof on that radical. The 3 is not getting in. So you simply have to leave this as 3 times the square root of 2. And this is your answer. And just like over here, I can't do this multiplication, you cannot do this either. That is a big no-no because this 2 is not under a radical and this one is. So you can't cancel them out. It's like one of them is trapped in radical land and the other one's not, and those two lands will not mix. Just like over here, this 3 is not in radical land, but this 2 is. They cannot get together. They just can't. These 2's, this one here and this one here, they're both under the radical. So this is like saying the square root of a 2 times a 2, which is a 4. And then the square root of 4 becomes a 2, and this 2 gets freed. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So my final answer here, since I made a total mess of that, would be 3 times the square root of 2 all over a 2. And you no longer have a radical in the denominator. And a lot of people just leave it written like this, but you could also say that what you have here is 3/2 of a square root of 2. Because there's like multiplication here. That's another way to write it. But most people, this is the most simplified way, so they leave it. Now that's where you just have a radical or a single radical underneath the fraction, in the denominator. And so I'm going to do a second video that shows you what happens when you have a binomial, like a 1 plus the square root of 2. All right, but I only have just so much time on my little recorder thing here, so I don't think I can get them both in one video. So I'll do a second video for that.